Hello everybody, welcome back to Sydney. Andy Reid is my guest on the YouTube page today, one of the most gifted of midfielders. You always felt when Andy Reid was on the pitch for Forest that they had a real opportunity to score a goal. He'll talk about his Reds career, which of course came in two parts, as a youngster coming through and then later coming back to the club when I think it's fair to say there was absolute carnage. Don't miss that. Also on signing for Roy Keane at Sunderland and playing for the likes of Charlton and Tottenham as well. A couple of things I'm going to ask you to do before we get going. One is, if you enjoy the video, is to like the page. It spreads it even further, spreads the word even further, and that really helps me as well. So if you like the video, click on the like button below. As I say, that will go to more people. And also, if there's anybody you want me to try and chat to, I can't promise that it will definitely happen, but if there's anybody you particularly want me to chat to, then leave a comment below and I'll do what I can potentially to get hold of that person and line up a chat over coming weeks and months. But let's get on with the video. Andy Reid on his time at Forest, and we start with how he got to the club in the first place.
When my parents came over as well, and kind of they got a real feel, not just for the club, but they got a real feel for Nottingham. And, you know, kind of right up until the time that my parents passed, they still absolutely loved coming to Nottingham. You know, kind of, you know, they'd come over and, you know, be like, they'd come over for 5 or 6 days and they'd go off, and my mum would be in doing shopping, and, you know, my dad would go to the pub for a few pints, and he got to know so many people around Nottingham. And it was just, you know, they felt really, really comfortable here as well. Now, some of them trips that they had over, you know, the greatest respect to them, I couldn't wait to pack them off. but myself and my family had a real affinity with Nottingham, you know, and the club, and then things are very, very, very important. You know, that my mum and dad kind of let me go away when I was because, as I said, I was 14 when I moved over at the start of July. I turned 15 at the end of July, but for them to kind of be comfortable with me moving abroad, so, you know, they needed to feel comfortable with the situation and where I was going, and they did. You know, they felt really comfortable.
Do you remember your debut?
Yeah, I do, because, you know, I kind of remember I was on the bench on the Saturday, and we played against Tranmere on the Saturday, and I was on the bench, and it was the first time that I've been on the bench, and I'm looking, and we were 3-0 up with like 20 minutes to go. And I'm going, come on, if there's ever a chance where you're going to put a young player on, you know, sure. I'm looking at David Platt, and I'm looking at Steve Wigley, and Steve Wigley's like that. And Steve didn't want to really look at me, because I knew I was kind of like, come on, you know, get me on. So he didn't really look at me. And he never put me on, which I kind of thought was strange. And I was a little bit annoyed. And I know I shouldn't be, but I suppose I was a stroppy little sod when I was younger. I probably still am sometimes, but not as bad. And so I didn't get on. Excuse me. I was a bit disappointed. We had the Sunday off, came in on the Monday, and then we're playing Sheffield United on the Tuesday night. And on the Monday, walking down to Home Road, I walk out the main door from where the changing rooms are into the car park. I'm about to walk out onto the Trent, and David Platt comes up behind me, and he pulls me, and he's like, Reedy. So I'm walking down with him, and he's asking me what I thought about the game. And I remember it very, very kind of clearly. He's asking me what I thought about the game on Saturday, and asking me kind of what I know about Sheffield United. And I'd known the video bits that we'd done, that the whole squad had done. And then he says to me, you're starting tomorrow night. I was like, starting? Okay. But I was absolutely made up. So we go down the training ground, running through some bits and pieces in shape. And as it turns out, I was playing up front with Jack Lester. And, you know, as it turns out, me and Jack have become good friends. And, you know, Candice, my wife, and his wife, Amanda, are really good friends. But, you know, kind of, I didn't really know him back then, but he was very, very good. Come up to me and said, listen, we'll make a partnership of this. We'll play together. And, you know, all the things that you would want from an experienced pro. He was very, very good. So that made me feel kind of very relaxed and very settled. And then we turn up for the game, and I always remember, because it's always something that kind of stuck with me. I remember driving over Trent Bridge, and it was dark because I think it was November. I think it was when I made my debut, and it was dark. And coming over Trent Bridge, and it was misty, and you see the lights, and I know it kind of sounds a little bit kind of romantic, but it's something that really, really stuck with me throughout my whole career. I got that lovely feeling, coming over for them night games, and coming over Trent Bridge and seeing the lights on at the stadium, and you can just see that. Well, it was the executive stand now, but it's obviously the Brian Clough stand. It's the executive stand then. It's obviously the Brian Clough stand, and such a lovely feeling. I'm kind of thinking, I feel like I belong here. Because you can kind of have that, I suppose, imposter syndrome where you feel, do I really, belong out on that pitch playing with them? And I just got a feeling that kind of, I don't think it was, I suppose it was a little bit of arrogance too, but I felt that, I belonged out on that pitch, and, and the game went really, really well. We played some good stuff, went 1-0 up in the first half, and then second half, I remember David Prutton playing a through ball, and probably for once in his career, the weight on the pass was actually quite good, because normally Pruts would just fire missiles at you that you had to deal with. But the weight on the pass was really good. I was able to take a touch with the outside of my foot and just kind of set myself, and then slot it in the corner, and scoring on my debut. We won 2-0. And I scored at the Trent End. It doesn't. You couldn't really write. You couldn't really write it any better, to be honest with you. And but I'm also on. So you're talking about perfect scenarios, and that was a perfect scenario. And I try and speak to the young players about it now. I played that game, but it didn't just kind of go then up and up and up. Then after that, I had loads of dips, and I played probably 4 or 5 games, and then I was out of the team, and that kind of knocked me confidence a little bit. And then the start of the next season, then Paul Hart took over, and I had to kind of fight my way into his team, and there's kind of peaks and troughs, and I try and say that to the young lads. At times you have to be patient. But one thing that you've got to do when you do go through them tough times is work harder, and at times I probably didn't do that as well as I should have done as a player, especially when I was younger. And that's what I kind of try and do as a coach now. So, my immediate reaction to when things don't go particularly well is to work harder. So you hit a little bump in the road, right? How do I get through this? Right, I work harder. I watch more video footage. I spend more time at my tactics board. I spend more time with the players. I could try and go through some more video analysis stuff with them, and we work hard on the training pitch. And I just think it's probably not a bad way to go. And I understand that there's flip side of it in psychology bits where things don't go too well. You kind of give them a day off, or you go for a walk up at Woollen Park and things like that, which, things like that are really important as well. But I think probably a decent way to kind of go about it when things don't go your way, just work harder.
Paul Hart coming in obviously was huge for the club and huge for you and so many, I would imagine, of those youngsters that made their way into the first team. You've mentioned David Prutton, but obviously there was Genus, there was Gareth Williams, Dawson, all sorts of players suddenly emerged into the first team in the end of the David Platt era and into Paul Hart. How much did that help you, having Dawson behind you, for example, and David Prutton alongside you, Gareth Williams in there as well?
Yeah, I think we felt. I think we felt a bit of, I suppose, kind of safety in numbers, because sometimes, first team dressing rooms aren't the easiest places to go into. And we had some people who were, very, very helpful for us. And we had some people who probably feared that we're going to come in and take the place in the team, and they make it difficult for you sometimes. And I suppose it's that's the law of the jungle, I suppose. People are feared that they don't want you to take the place. But, we had people who were very good to us. And I mentioned Jack there, and probably one of the real standout ones when we moved up, who was brilliant for us all, was Ricky Shimmiker. He was so good, really level-headed, would give you great advice. And there were others. There was quite a few others, but Ricky is the one that kind of jumps out at me a little bit. He was brilliant, and you kind of need them. But I think we all of us young lads really believed in each other. We'd kind of come up through the age groups. We'd won the under-19 league. and together. We'd done really well, although we hadn't won the Youth Cup. You know, we were good enough to do it, and you know, we lost out to a really good Arsenal side at the time, and we missed loads of chances on the night, and they beat us 1-0. A team with Pennant and that in it. So I think we all believed in each other, and we kind of trusted each other. We trusted that we could get in there and make a real impact. But probably more important than us trusting each other was that we felt the trust of Paul. He really believed in us all the way through.
He always backed it, didn't he?
Well, he did back us. He did back us. And he didn't back us by what he said. For me, he backed us by his actions. And his actions were putting us out on the pitch and going and performing. And we wanted to repay that because we knew that when he came in first, he got rid of quite a few of the senior pros there. So we knew that in a lot of ways he was kind of taking a risk. He was taking a risk doing that and really showing the faith in us. And we were all desperate to kind of prove him right and kind of repay that faith to us. And I think we did for a period of time.
That first season obviously was all about, under Paul Hart, was about staying up. And the second one obviously ended in the playoff defeat against Sheffield United. I mean, it was a magnificent second season. The football that the team played was, I think that was the best season I saw in 20 years at covering Forest. It was fantastic to watch. How do you look back on that season now, and obviously that playoff game against Sheffield United, which was magnificent to watch?
Yeah, I mean, the season was phenomenal, and one thing I always remember about that season is, and we talk about the football, and the football was great, and it was really good, but being in and around all the lads that season was a joy. You kind of couldn't wait to get to work. The boys would come in, and there was such a togetherness that had kind of formed over the last kind of 18 months, where we had all these young lads coming in. Some of the senior lads left, but Paul kept the ones that he really wanted. So we kind of started to really bond over the kind of 18 months, and that was really, really good to be part of. And then that, because you can go into a dressing room, and I'm not really a big one for saying, people say to me, "Oh, do you miss football? Do you miss the dressing room? Do you miss the banter?" It's not got me mates outside football. I enjoyed being in dressing rooms. I had a laugh. I've done all the bits, but for me, it was always all about the football. But when it transfers from the dressing room out onto the football pitch and out onto the training pitch, then you're onto something kind of really, really special, and that's kind of what it felt like. It was transferring out onto the onto the training pitch. So that was really, really important for us, and it was great. The football that we played at times. I mean, we played the Diamond, and funnily enough, I've kind of been, I suppose, just by the players that I've got at the moment with the 23s, I've been playing the Diamond, and you're thinking back, and it kind of just drags up some memories. For me, on the outside of that Diamond, or in the even in the 10, which I played a bit at times as well. I absolutely loved it, and we such a strong team. The system. The players that we had lent itself to the system, the way Paul wanted to play, pushing the full-backs on, the centre-back splitting. Darren Ward was brilliant with his feet. He was able to play out. You got Ricky Shimmick at the base of the Diamond. There was me and Gareth Williams on kind of either side. And then, you'd got Darren Huckabee when he came in. And then you Marlon up front with Jono. Jim Brennan, Matty Lewis-Jean, you Dost, John Thompson, Des was there as well. You just look around, and you just knew we were kind of onto something. You just felt you were onto something. And so the season was absolutely fantastic. It really was. It was great. And I know the way it ended was disappointing, and everybody would have been disappointed with it. But I think what you said, I think I'd probably agree with you. Maybe we got close to it for probably about 6 or 8 months with Billy Davies when Billy came back in. We had a really, really good team and played some great football for probably 6 to 8 months, and kind of petered out a little bit. But that's probably the closest, I think, that in any of the football that I've seen since then. Forest was probably the best. It was really, really good.
More to come from Andy Reid in a moment on his return to Forest amidst the carnage of the Fawaz era, and also about how he signed for Sunderland under Roy Keane as well. Reminder for you, a couple of things I'd love you to do. One is to click the like button below, which will spread this video much further. And also, anybody you want me to try and speak to over the coming months, if you've got an idea, somebody you'd love to hear from, get in touch and leave a comment below and I'll see what I can do. Let's get back to Andy Reid. Players obviously left, you left, Michael Dawson left, both went to Tottenham together in that deal for £8 million, which seems nothing now, does it? £8 million for two players, two of the best players in the Championship. But you tell me if I'm wrong, but the departure seemed, I guess it takes a lot to sort out a double transfer between two clubs and two players, but it just seemed all a bit messy the way that ended for you in that first spell. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, well, I think, to put a little bit kind of context to it, and, I've spoken about this before. I felt we could really kick on after the playoffs. I think, we needed to hold on to onto Jim Brennan. We needed to hold on to Ricky, which we didn't. Marlon then left. Darren Huckabee never signed, went to Norwich. They got promoted the next season. And, and you just thought if you kept the squad together, we only probably needed to add one or two players to it who would just kind of push for places. And I'm still convinced to this day that we'd have got promoted. I really am. I'm still convinced that we would have got promoted. But we didn't. Things started to kind of dwindle a little bit. We lost the players. We never really kind of replaced them with the same quality anyway. And it was always going to be a struggle from then. And, and Tottenham had been interested in me for quite a while. They put in a couple of bids which had been torn down. And then Daniel Levy and Nigel Dougherty kind of got into a little bit of a kind of a battle, which was then making it kind of more difficult to happen. And, there was a couple of people trying to kind of convince me to go to Southampton. But I didn't really want to go there. No disrespect to them, but I wanted to sign for Tottenham. And they'd shown a real interest. Frank Arneson was director of football, and he kind of tracked me. David Pleat was heavily involved in it as well, and they'd shown an interest over a period of time, which was what kind of interested me. But it was becoming really difficult to kind of get the job done and to get the deal done. It was I felt it was the right time for everybody. I felt that there was good money being offered, which probably need to be invested. Gary Megson was the manager at this point, and, I didn't really fit into how he wanted to kind of play football. So for me, it was a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest with you, where I'm kind of looking, well, I don't fit into the way that the manager wants to play football. There's really good money being offered here. Maybe that could be reinvested into bringing in players who maybe suited Gary Megson's style of play a little bit more. But it was just becoming really difficult. And then kind of pretty late on in it, really, it was suggested maybe we could do a deal and kind of get Dawson involved in it, So I kind of managed to rope Dawson. And it's funny how football works, because he came in last minute as not a make way for the deal, because they really, really wanted him, but he came in a little bit last minute, and he went on to captain the club for 10 years. I was only there for 18 months myself. I'm sure he still owes me a few quid for getting him that move, by the way.
You had a spell at Spurs and then on to Charlton, Sunderland. Yeah, when you look back, you had a good career in the Premier League. You made yourself a Premier League player.
No, I did. And you know what? I was very fortunate that I was never at a club, maybe other than Blackpool, but as a club, Blackpool was fine. But from a football perspective, I was there for kind of 4 months, and I never really played that much, to be honest with you. But everywhere else that I went, I loved my time at Tottenham. It was brilliant. I would have liked to get more opportunities, but they were signing people like Edgar Davids and it were kind of, and Van der Vaart came not long after, and they were Modric came again not long after. They were signing these type of players, and I just didn't feel like the game time was kind of going to be there for me. And I made the decision really quickly. I didn't want to play in anybody's reserves. I wanted to play first in football. I was kind of 22, 23, 24. I just wanted to play. So but I really enjoyed my time there, and I went to Charlton. Ian Dowie signed me for Charlton and rang me up. I liked his ideas on how he wanted to go about it. He ended up getting sacked kind of really quickly, and then Alan Pardew came in, and unfortunately he couldn't keep us up. But I loved working with Pards. He made me captain. Kind of wanted to build a team around me, and I loved Charlton because it had such a lovely feel to it as a football club. Loved the people who worked there. You've been to the Valley, and it's kind of
family
right
club, isn't it?
But it's just got a real community feel to it, where it's set all right in the middle of all the houses, and there's just a lovely feel. And I feel that, if things had been a little bit different, I could have stayed there for 5, 6, 7, even 10 years. I really, really liked it there. But when relegation happened, we were making a good fist of getting back up. I think we were second in the league. I picked up a little injury, a little knee injury. I was going to be out for probably about 6 weeks. And just as I was getting back from the knee injury, and I knew with the relegation that they were struggling for money in that, and Sunderland came in with a bid. And if I'm being totally honest with you, I wasn't in a huge hurry to kind of go, because as I said, I love working with Pards. I was captain of the football club. I thought, we're going to get promoted here. And then, I kind of spoke to Pards and says, I'm not massively keen on going. What's your thoughts? And he was like, really, they're kind of forcing my hand here a little bit. He says, I really don't want to lose you. He says, but it looks like they need the money. So when he said that, I kind of started to think about the Sunderland thing a little bit more. If you're kind of being forced kind of one way for a reason, it's probably not good to kind of hang around. So I started to explore the Sunderland thing a bit more. Went up, met Roy Keane, and then I think it was transfer deadline day, or maybe day before transfer deadline day, I signed for Sunderland. And again, a club that I absolutely loved. The passion from the fans. I feel that they really took to me. We loved living up in the northeast. I mean, me and Candy still speak about it now. We lived in Durham, and she absolutely loved it. Even when I left, Sunderland, she was like, "Can we still live in Durham?" And I was like, "No." I says, "We don't play for Sunderland anymore." I says, "It's time to go." And she was like, she was devastated. Loved the house up there. Loved the people up in the northeast. Reminded me very much of Irish people in a lot of ways. Really,
presumably playing for Roy Keane was a big thing for you as well, was it?
Well, I played with Roy, and and Roy kind of it was interesting because we were trying to get the deal done, and I was in a reasonably strong position in the fact that I was happy enough at Charlton, so I could be a little bit more. Well, you have to make this happen, So we sat there with my agent and going through some bits with the chief executive, and he was like, "Well, we can't give you what you're asking for, Reid." And I was like, "Well, so if I go back to Charlton and Sunderland were like second or third bottom in the Premier League at the time, but I did feel that they could. I felt that they could that they could stay up. There was some good players there. There was a nice feel to it, but we were just a bit off, not way off, but we were a bit off, where I'm thinking, right, okay, if I have to go back and play for Charlton, then fine, get myself, over this injury. I was nearly back anyway, and we'll try and get promoted with Charlton. And I think that's probably a good mindset to be in when you're kind of in negotiations with a club, because if you're desperate to go somewhere, then you're not really in a strong position. So we sat there, can't get the deal done. Roy walks in, and we're in the boardroom at the training ground. Chief executive's there. And, Roy says, "Are we sorted?" And he goes, "No, we're a bit off." And he says, "Right, give him what he's asking for."
Really?
And the chief executive. Have you ever seen that GIF where you see Roy Hodgson, where he just kind of goes like that, he drops his head? The chief executive was like that, and then Roy says, "Come on, we go into the room for a chat." So I went into the room, had a good chat with Roy, came back out. The contract was already in there, and then we kind of got it signed. So it was a good way to start.
You don't argue, do you? If he says something,
you see, this is the thing. You're not going to turn around and say no, Roy. You just say get it done. But so I suppose it was a good start. But I think over my time there, I kind of repaid them. We stayed up that season. I had a big part in staying up, in them staying up. Scored a couple of goals, set up a few goals, played really well. Feel I had a really positive impact in it. And probably one of my most special moments up there was we played against West Ham, and it was 1-1, and we went into injury time, and it was like 94th minute. The ball's come across a Carlton volley and put it in the bottom corner. It was like the place just went absolutely berserk. I think it's probably the best single moment that I've probably kind of. Scoring for Ireland was really important, but the energy and the atmosphere in the ground when that goal went in, it was just, the roof just came off. Kind of 50-odd thousand Mackems just going absolutely mental. All the lads dived on top of me, and I think then we kind of thought, I think that took us out of the bottom three, and it was then you kind of thought, we're going to stay up here. So we stayed up that season, and really, really special moment. But special club, really, really special club, and again, and I think, a little bit like Charlton, I feel like I could have, possibly stayed there for 6, 7, 8 years as well. I've had that kind of feel to it where, it was a good place to be.
I'm going to fast forward a bit because I know we're a little bit pushed for time, but coming back to Forest after spells elsewhere. Steve McClaren signs you as Forest manager. Soon all hell breaks loose, and the club for the next 2 or 3 years is absolute carnage. Did you feel like, after a little while, you'd walk back into a storm?
Yeah, but I felt like I was kind of part of the storm in some ways, in the respect that I felt like I was kind of part of the club because I'd come through it. So I thought, well, I didn't think it was like kind of, oh, well, you're in there. And I felt like, not that I was involved in kind of any of the stuff that was going on, but I just felt like, I felt like it was kind of my club, you know what I mean? I felt like, listen, I'm part of this here. I've come through the ranks here, and it's, time to dig in. It's going to be tough, but, it's kind of time to dig in. And, some of the things that I've seen, since that time when Steve McClaren signed me, with, Steve Cotterill came in then as manager, and it took me a long time to kind of convince him that I should be playing in his team. He used to put me on for 15 minutes, and I'd score one and set up two in 15 minutes. I'm thinking, well, I've got to be playing the next game, and then he wouldn't play me. I'm like, any chance here? I remember one time I come on against Ipswich, and we were 1-0 down. I come on, and I set 2 up. We won 2-1. I set 1 up for Marcus Tugger and 1 up for Chamber or Joe Lynch. I can't remember which one it was, but set up 2. We won 2-1, and we went away to, I think it was Brighton. I think it was. We went away to in the next game, and I'm like, waiting for the team to go up. I'm thinking, oh, I can't be playing, and I wasn't playing. I was like. So I was thinking, I'm just going to have to kind of sit this out here and just kind of bide my time. I'd already knocked on his door, and I just kind of kept going really with it. And Sean O'Driscoll came in, and Sean was a kind of a voice of reason. And I think he understood my quality, probably, and maybe appreciated my quality maybe a little bit more. And he was like,
different styles, aren't they? I mean, completely different from McClaren to Cotterill to O'Driscoll.
Yeah, kind of. It is really, but at the same time, I think good players can fit in any kind of style, really. And I was still making an impact, which was a bit surprising. And I kind of had my ups and downs with Steve, and we had a couple of, I've actually got respect for him. I have to say, I've got respect for him, and but we had our ups and downs. We had a couple of fallings out, should we say?
I can't imagine either of you taking a step backwards, really.
Yeah, I know, and it kind of was like that at times as well, to be fair. But but I felt like I should have been in the team, because in all honesty, we weren't playing very well, and I was like, there wasn't, other than Gareth McCleary, there wasn't a lot of creativity in the team. I suppose Raddy Mieski was quite creative as well, but I felt that kind of should be. Actually, I probably should say I'm maybe a little bit harsh. There was a Lewis McGugan as well, who could, who had a phenomenal amount of ability. But I felt I should be in the team. And when Sean came in, he kind of, really, really pushed to kind of get me back in the team. And I got back in the team probably the last 10, 15 games, and we ended up staying up reasonably comfortably in the end. And then Sean took over the start of next season, and and then probably for the next 2 or 3 seasons, I felt really, really good, felt really fit, and really enjoyed my football. But there was some crazy stuff going on with, owners and managers getting sacked, and you know, Billy coming back in, and you know, some crazy stuff, and just felt like, you know, something had happened, that we wouldn't get paid, or I don't know, something had happened, and they'd wheel me and Chris Cohen out in front of you guys.
You about that.
you always knew something. No, I know, you always knew something was up when, you know, when it was either Fraser or Ben, probably a little bit later, you know, when you get a phone call and from them, and Fraser and Ben obviously being the PR guys, who were both great guys as well. You get a phone call and they'd say, right, you're going to be, I was like, okay, what's going on here?
You were wheeled out, basically. You and Chris Cohen were wheeled out, basically, a bit like the Iraqi foreign minister in the 90s, to say everything's fine, there's nothing to see here. And there was absolute chaos behind the scenes.
We did as well. I know. Oh God, it's you know, it's quite. You say it's quite funny. It's quite funny, I suppose, when I look back on it now. But I didn't feel it was funny at the time. I've got to be honest with you. You know, I actually seen it was quite serious, and but there was some interesting times. To be fair, there was some interesting times, and you know, and I know people will, you know, and I know people probably the way things have gone over the last kind of few years here. But you know, from being on the inside and kind of seeing, you know, a lot of the stuff that goes on here, and I know probably hasn't been ideal at times. But I mean, for stability and kind of where we're at as a football club, as in financially and kind of things getting done, there's, you know, I mean, it's night and day compared to some of the knee-jerk reactions that kind of what were happening back then.
Just finally, Andy Reid, the coach, now, what would Andy Reid, the coach, tell Andy Reid, the player?
Probably be a bit more level-headed with your emotions. You know, I was very, very kind of emotional and very, you know, probably, I don't know, maybe a bit too headstrong. I didn't maybe listen as much as I could. I think it was, you know, it was important to take on, you know, on board information. And especially when I was younger, I was kind of really, really headstrong, and I thought, you know, it's got to be this way, you know, and I think you kind of need to kind of keep learning. I probably went through a phase when I was younger, maybe 20 to kind of 25, where I thought I knew it all, you know, I've got that kind of arrogance, I suppose, bordering on cockiness. But I think you can always learn, you can always kind of get better. I think it would have been difficult to coach me, you know, and probably I was so lucky to have Paul as the one who was, you know, who although me and him used to kind of be at each other quite a bit, he got me, you know, he understood what I was all about, and, you know, and that made me in a roundabout way want to, sometimes I wanted to really, really do it for him, and then other times I wanted to really, really do it despite him. But he knew how to trigger me, so he knew how to wind me up and say things like, well, no, you can't do that. Because when somebody tells me I can't do something, it makes me want to do it even more. So sometimes he would tell me that, and I would do everything I could to do that, you know, to kind of do it. And he played me very, very well. And, you know, things that I still kind of use now, kind of coaching techniques and psychological techniques to try and get the best out of players. I love my coaching. You know, when I finished playing, had a bit of a tough time and kind of wasn't sure where it was all going. Really, I thought, you know, was that never going to replace playing? And this is probably the first time in quite a while that I've actually spoken about my playing career, to be honest with you, because generally, when I sit down and talk to people, I kind of want to just talk about my coaching, you know, and because it means a lot to me. You know, I love the job that I do. I love trying to develop young players and young people, probably young people first and then young players after, because I think that's really, really important, that they develop as good people. You know, good people, you know, if it's coupled with ability, they generally make better players, you know. So for me to kind of see young lads develop, is really, really important. I'm learning my kind of craft. I feel like I'm getting better at it all the time. And the relationships that I'm trying to build, you know, I genuinely cared about the job. I cared about the players. I really, really want them to do well. Don't like to talk to them too much about my playing career, but you know, if there's times where I was only talking about it with Chris Brass this morning, if I can put myself back to where they are now, then I can maybe give them some tips and some stuff like that. But generally, I don't like talking about my playing career to them, because it's about them. You know, but one thing that I do kind of say is that I was very, very fortunate that I had got a good playing career, and the gains from having it, like, you know, it's changed my life. You know what I mean? It's and I desperately want that for them. I want them to experience walking out on the City Ground pitch to, you know, 28,000 fans, you know, singing "Mist Rolling In." You know, I want that for them, because it's such an amazing feeling to score a goal, to make a block, to win a tackle, to be able to do something that can get the crowd off their feet, off their seat. You know, and kind of it's such a special thing to be able to do, and I want them to have it, you know, and I'm prepared to kind of do everything I can, but they have to be prepared to do everything they can. And you quickly find out who the ones who really, really want it are, and who are prepared to go extra, who are prepared to not complain about hard work. And, you know, and we work them really, really hard here at the academy, and as in physically and technically, and we ask a lot of them, and we demand high standards, and we really, really push them, probably to the point where they look and go, is this really, really necessary? You know, when we look at the amount of work that we do on the training pitch, and they think, no, this might be a little bit, but we're trying to prepare them for what it's like when they, you know, some of them will make it here at Forest. A lot of them won't, unfortunately, but we have to try and give them the best opportunity of making a career for themselves, whether it's here or whether it's somebody else, whether it's somewhere else. And there's loads goes into that. Resilience goes into that. The tactical awareness goes into it. And we have to try and help them with the drive. We have to try and help them with the technique, all them bits, and it all goes into kind of making a footballer. But hard work, I suppose, and desire, and bringing a real energy to it every day is key. You know, we've got a kind of a traits wheel that we've got, and you know, and right at the centre of it is energy. You know, the players have to bring in energy every single day. It's where football's going. It's not like it was kind of when I started out, where, you know, it's you can't get away with not having energy and not having really, really kind of high tempo and having a lot about you. So we try and instill that in them and let them know that, you know, this is what it takes. And if we can kind of get the hard yards in early on, then we're hopeful that it'll become easier moving forward.
Thank you very much indeed, Andy. It was always good to watch you play and to talk afterwards in, I don't know how many post-match interviews we did down the years, dozens I would think, but always good, and I appreciate your time today. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure, and listen, everything that you've done for the football club in regards of kind of how you helped, and, you know, how you were always there, and I think what you did do, you helped a lot of the young lads when they came in, as in when they step in and they have to step out and do the first interview, you know, to do it with somebody like you was always a massive help, and a familiar face. And, you know, I think we see in the media at times can be quite a difficult place to kind of be in and around, with people trying to catch people out and all the bits. And, you know, I think the help that you gave the football club over the years, and the support that you gave the football club over the years, coupled then with the information that you were able to get out to the public and your personality with it, I think was absolutely fantastic. So to have you around was an absolute pleasure. And I know when you did leave, although people were very, very happy with you, there's a lot of people over here who have really, really missed everything that you've done.
You'll make me cry. Thanks, Andy.
Stop. Yeah, stop it.